I've humbled myself. What is the next step in this decision-making process? And so this focus that I took was really looking at my roots, looking at what meant most to me in the world, and perhaps what was keeping me from making this decision, and looking at it from a different perspective, through a different lens, to understand that the very things I thought were what was keeping me in the marriage was actually what I needed to look at in terms of making this decision. So the first one was my son. Like most people, we think, that we should stay in a marriage because it's better for the children. And so my first thought was, well, it's not better for the children, not better for the child in this case, if indeed my marriage isn't what it's supposed to be. What kind of role modeling am I giving my son? What kind of message am I sending to him in terms of what a marriage should look like? And for this, I started thinking about a conversation that I had with someone prior to Tony, my son, being born. And it's a conversation that I am certain to this day, I've never spoken to the woman about it, a woman named Anastasia. I'm certain that Anastasia doesn't even recall this conversation, but it made such an impact on me. Anastasia was an attorney. She was about 10 years older than me. I was a very young associate at the time, not married, didn't have kids. She had gone to a wonderful college, a wonderful law school, worked at a large firm, and had just opened up her own firm. And she had just had a baby. She had about a 6-month-old baby. And I approached her at an event. She looked so tired. I remember because I had known her for quite some time, and she just looked so tired and worried and angst-filled. So I said, how are you? And after a little bit of chit chat, she confided in me and said something that I now know is something that many women say, but again, it impacted me so greatly. And she said, Patti, when I'm at home, I feel like a mediocre lawyer. And when I'm at work, I feel like a mediocre mom. And I just remember being so sad for her, thinking, you are such an accomplished, incredible woman. I also know that you're an incredible mother. How sad that you're feeling this way. And the reason that had such an impact on me is I just remember leaving that particular event, really thinking about this statement that Anastasia had shared with me, and thinking, if push comes to shove, and on my deathbed, people say she was a mediocre lawyer, she was a mediocre business person, I'd be sad because I work hard and I certainly care about my professional identity, but I'd somehow be able to get past that. What I wouldn't be able to live with is if someone said that I'd been a mediocre mother. That doesn't mean that I'm a perfect mother by any way, shape, or form, but that idea of really putting my family, my son first was something that I thought about from that time, and it came back when I was deciding if indeed I want to put him as my highest priority. Am I doing that by staying in this marriage? And because I did lots and lots of studying and looking at the topics of decision making, and I'm pretty thorough and analytical in my decision making. One of the things that I started thinking about, in a theory that I started to form, and it's something that we're going to be spending quite some time in when we transition into how we make decisions in the workplace, and that is that we as humans have been conditioned to look at this binary decision when we get to a fork in the road. And we always think that there is a good choice and a bad choice. And we even have sayings, right? We will say to our kids, or sometimes our kids will say to us, make good choices, pick the good. And I think that was one of the blocks that had kept me from making this decision. A good decision and a bad decision was all I was really thinking. And it finally dawned on me, there was no good decision. There was no good decision in my particular case. And what I had instead was a choice between a bad decision or a worse decision. And in my case, it would be a bad decision to get divorced. That's never a good decision, but it would be a worse decision to stay in this marriage. And that to me just created this clarity, this North Star of thinking, wait a minute, if it's a worse choice to stay in this marriage, and if what I'm doing is focusing on giving my son a life that will allow him to be a happy and successful adult one day, then clearly, as much as I hate having to choose bad, it certainly is better than worse. I also started to rely on my friends and family more. And one of the things that came up that was very specific, that again just sort of guided me down this path of making me feel better and better, and really increased my courage in terms of making this very bold and difficult decision. my sister suggested that I do something. I have two older sisters, a younger brother, a best friend. I'm very, very lucky when it comes to having people in my life who are there for me. But my sister said to me, you're going to wake up sometimes at 3 in the morning and you're going to need to talk to someone. And that became sort of our code word. So she said, let's do a list and it's going to be your A list. And that A list are the people that you can talk to at 3 in the morning that will be willing to sleep with their phone next to their bed. And if you need them to come over at 3 in the morning, they'll be there. We already knew that my two sisters and my best friend were on that list, but I started putting it together and something incredible happened. It turns out that I had about 15 people on that list. And that sense of such a blessing, knowing that I had this incredible support system, just made it easier and easier to be brave. And incredibly, we even made a B list, and that was who can I call at 3 p.m. So maybe this person isn't going to be available at 3 a.m., but at 3 p.m., who is it? And again, this list was longer than I would have anticipated if I hadn't thought about it. So all of these, positive things started coming as a result of becoming braver and bolder. And then the last thought in terms of my North Star was really thinking of my parents. I am a Salvadoran immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 3, and I had the blessing of having the most incredible parents, most incredible family. And one of the things that I had always thought about is that I am who I am today in large part because of the stability and the love that my parents gave me. Probably the biggest gift that they gave me because of how we were raised is a sense of belonging, a sense of really being able to use my voice, not just find it, but actually use it. And so, those have always been my heroes. And that was one of the things that was keeping me from making this decision. And so I started thinking about, well, certainly my parents' stable marriage was something that created who I am today. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just the fact that they were married. It was that they put me at the center, me and my siblings, at the center of their life, of their decision making. It was that they gave us unconditional love. It's that they made the ultimate sacrifice by leaving a country and a culture and family and language that was their home in order to give us a better life. That's really the sacrifices, and the love was at the root of why it is that being raised by my parents made me who I am today. And so I started thinking, well, if I can't replicate the stability of their marriage, what can I do to replicate that love, that sacrifice, the things that I know are really the most important things in making me who I am today? And how can I use those lessons now to raise my child in the same way? So for this, it was the sense of, again, not just relief, but it's something even stronger than that. As I got into identifying these North Stars, it was a sense of peace. It was a sense of clarity that I knew exactly where I needed to go.